When my brother was getting his results, crap, I need to delete that video, don't I? When I was getting my results, my brother was at this social media thing where they tell about the dangers of social media. Well, that's what it was advertised as. That's what they said it was, but it was mainly just the cops saying, "Don't do this, don't do that," even if I had nothing to do with social media whatsoever. Which I should have known that's what it was, but I didn't. So I said, my brother, right, go to it if you want to go to it and all. Well, actually, you don't have a choice because no one will be home. But, right, I'm just going to tell you what I've learned from experience is that the rules of social media only apply to you. Because I will repost stuff that contains copyrighted material. And sometimes it'll fall under fair use, and the original poster will be fine, but I'll get copy striked, or the original video, it would warrant a takedown because of how much copyrighted material is used, but it doesn't get taken down. But mine does. So I say that the rules only apply to you. And now I have the hiccups because I took one drink.
Samsung's chief lawyer admitted to bribing and fabricating evidence on the order of Samsung's CEO. Samsung's CEO also used several of his executives as scapegoats to pass the blame for several undisclosed financial scandals.
Who's responsible for this?
Many critics claim that Samsung has the South Korean government in the palm of its hand, saying that they have a history of shutting down smaller businesses that compete with them, and collaborating with other large businesses to fix prices. An economist from the Washington Post once wrote that the South Korean people have come to think of Samsung as invincible and above the law. Samsung is also guilty of several instances of false advertising. The Federal Trade Commission received a tip that said Samsung had hired students to attack their competitors in online forums. After they were found out, they made an announcement on their Facebook page saying they didn't do it. In 2014, one of the companies that Samsung subcontracted for manufacturing was busted for violating child labor laws. HEG Electronics had employed over 10 children under 16 years old to work in one of its factories. Samsung said that it had conducted an investigation prior to this discovery and found no child or student working in this facility.
Liar!
An organization called Child Labor Watch has investigated many of Samsung's factories and has uncovered instances of unpaid overtime wages, more than 200 monthly overtime hours, abuse of labor dispatch and student workers, and occupational safety concerns. The day that Child Labor Watch arrived to conduct an investigation about the HTNS factory in China, the factory immediately let go 3 of its underage workers, one of which was working under a false identity that the factory gave her. A vocational school in China supplied underage students to a local factory to build Samsung electronics. Even though Samsung and the school were quick to deny these claims, Child Labor Watch supplied overwhelming evidence that they had supplied students between the ages of 14 to 16 years old to work at the factories. In one of Samsung's...
Something you need to know is that this video is being recorded on a Samsung device. Like, obviously all this stuff that's happening is really bad, and I wish it just didn't happen. But I'm not gonna stop using Samsung products. I'm not gonna, like, break my phone out of protest and all that because they provide a really good service. Because a lot of people will say all this stuff is really bad. They will say that all this sweatshop stuff shouldn't happen. They'll tweet that out from a Samsung phone. And they don't realise the hypocrisy of them saying that. That's why I don't talk about all that, because I know that I'd be a hypocrite by even mentioning it. Like, most people are willing to look past stuff like that if they provide a really good service. Like Samsung. I really like my phone.
Semiconductor plants, over 200 employees were diagnosed with cancer that was directly related to chemical exposure in their factories. The number of employees that have become ill and died is continuing to rise. Samsung has done very little, and in some cases nothing at all, to compensate these employees for medical expenses. In 2010, the European Trade Commission fined Samsung and a group of other electronics companies for working together to fix prices of flat panel monitors at a higher rate. It was also discovered that this cartel of companies was fixing prices in Canada. In 2012, a court returned a verdict overwhelmingly in favor of Apple Incorporated against Samsung for infringing on Apple's intellectual property, including Apple's hardware and software designs. There are also several instances of Samsung Galaxy phones' batteries exploding. A Swiss teen was left with second and third degree burns after her Galaxy S3 exploded in her lap.
Here's an example. This guy is able to get away with using a lot of movie and show clips that are similar to what he's talking about. He's talking about a girl who her phone exploded in her lap, and now Kenny's son spontaneously combusted in South Park, and he's getting away with it, which is fine. I hope he does, because it's not enough for him to get copy striked. But when I do it, I get taken down despite the fact that it's completely fine. And even if it wasn't, how come this video hasn't been taken down in the 5 years that it was made?
There were also burn cases related to battery explosions in Pakistan and Russia. And finally, in the United Kingdom, there was a report of a Galaxy battery exploding and setting a baby stroller on fire. Fox News is the most watched cable news network in the United States, and it has an extreme conservative bias, even though they claim to be fair and balanced.
It is true that they do have a conservative bias, and if the problem is that all the other news channels have a liberal bias. Just no one mentions it. But I mean, just because Fox are biased doesn't give the other channels an excuse to be biased. They should all be fair and equal. Because the point of the news is just to report the news, not report what the presenters think.
You're a cocaine dealer, and you kind of look like one a little bit.
Fox News' obvious conservative bias has made it nearly impossible for them to host presidential debates for the DNC. Many of the major candidates for the Democratic nominee for president have refused to appear on the network's debates, forcing the network to cancel them altogether. Fox has become such a powerful conservative force. A former speechwriter for George W. Bush once said, "Republicans originally thought that Fox worked for us, and now we're discovering we work for Fox." Rupert Murdoch, who is the owner of Fox News, has also been subject to controversy. A famous BBC newsman said of Murdoch, "There is no one person more responsible for the pollution of what was already a fairly polluted press." Murdoch recently tweeted that if Ben Carson were elected president, he would be a real black president. Fox and Friends can take credit for spouting conspiracy theories about Obama's religion. They were doing it way before Donald Trump made it cool. In 2012, the show aired a 4-minute video attacking Obama's record as president, which was really just a political attack ad lightly veiled as journalism. The New York Times once reported that some of the executives at Fox were embarrassed by the show, but it continues to be one of their highest-rated programs. Fox and Friends was even caught citing a spoof news website that claimed that President Obama offered to pay out of his own pocket for a museum of Muslim culture.
President Obama has offered to pay out of his own pocket for the Museum of Muslim Culture out of his own pocket.
And when I say spoof news site, I am not referring to foxnews.com. According to PolitiFact, 56 of the stories and over 100 statements made on Fox and Friends were false. Fox has also used some slogans over the past 15 years that can only be described as laughable, such as their slogan, fair and balanced. The CEO of Fox News is a guy named Roger Ailes. He was a key consultant for many Republican presidents, including Nixon, Reagan, and Bush #1. But you know, fair and balanced. Ailes
Ailes has a well-known quote that I think pretty much sums up his thoughts on how news should work. If you have two guys on a stage and one guy says, "I have a solution to the Middle East problem," and the other guy falls in the orchestra pit, who do you think is going to be on the evening news? Ailes is also accused in Bob Woodward's book, Bush at War, for influencing Bush's reaction to 9/11, saying that America would be patient as long as they thought Bush was using the harshest measures possible. Most of Fox News' rhetoric is dictated by its executives. Their VP of News, John Moody, is notorious for sending out memos that explain in detail how the news staff should approach certain stories, as explained in the documentary Outfoxed.
The memoranda that were written by John Moody.
Every morning, there was a detailed list of subjects to talk about, not talk about.
Larry Johnson, a former Fox News contributor, describes Moody's memos as talking points instructing us what the themes are supposed to be, and God help you if you stray. A former producer for Fox News has spoken out against these memos, saying, "The roots of Fox News channel's day-to-day on-air bias are actual and direct. They come in the form of an executive memo distributed electronically each morning, addressing what stories will be covered and often suggesting how they should be covered. The memo is the Bible. If, on any given day, you notice that the Fox anchors seem to be trying to drive a particular point home, you can bet the memo is behind it." Another memo from Bill Salmon was leaked that explained how the news staff should talk about Obamacare. He said that they should use the term government option instead of public option, and if they had to say public option, they should qualify it with the phrase so-called.
And you think
Hasn't been thought out.
You think the Affordable Care Act is a better plan than Obamacare?
Better, but I'm not happy with that either.
Fox was also caught editing anchor Shepard Smith's Wikipedia page, removing that he had been arrested. Fox seems to have a real love for manipulating videos and pictures to make people look bad. They did this to two New York Times reporters. They made goofy pictures of these two for two reasons. They pointed out what they called ominous trends in Fox News ratings, and the producers of Fox and Friends have the maturity of 8-year-olds. Oh, and also, they showed a picture of them photoshopped onto a poodle and a person walking the poodle. Fox took out a full-page ad in the Washington Post that read, "How did ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and CNN miss this story?" accompanied by a picture of Tea Partiers protesting on the Capitol lawn. Not only did all of these other networks cover the story, but the picture they used was actually taken from a CNN broadcast covering the protest. There are so many examples of Fox News editing footage to make certain people look good or bad, it would be impossible to go through them all. Jon Stewart tried this for over 15 years, and it almost drove him insane. On the show Hannity, they tried to make it seem like a universal healthcare protest had a bigger turnout than it actually did. They claimed there were up to 45,000 people when it was really closer to 10,000. They didn't just use tricky angles or clever shots from the actual rally, they used footage from Glenn Beck's rally that was 2 months earlier. This was made obvious by the sky becoming suddenly cloudy and the trees changing from fall colors to green between shots. First of all, let's start with a list of a few classic movies that were never nominated for an Oscar. Rear Window, Psycho, North by
I didn't like Rear Window.
Northwest, The Empire Strikes Back, 2001 Space Odyssey, Blade Runner, Manhattan, and Singing in the Rain.
Despite the fact that I like the film, I don't think The Empire Strikes Back should have been nominated for an Oscar.
Several iconic directors, such as Alfred Hitchcock and Sidney Lumet, were never honored by the Academy. Paul Lucas won over Humphrey Bogart's performance in Casablanca in 1943, and Charlton Heston won over Cary Grant's performance in North by Northwest in 1959. Any film that debuts on TV is not eligible for the Oscars, even if that film has a theatrical run. One such film, Heart of Darkness, got the snub from the Academy because it aired on TV, even though it's regarded as one of the finest documentaries of all time. This is just one example of how negotiations between producers and movie studios seem to be more important than the content of the films themselves. Shakespeare in Love won 7 Oscars, which is absolutely absurd given its competition that year. Films like Saving Private Ryan, Elizabeth, and The Truman Show all lost to a movie with Gwyneth Paltrow. You might think that in order to win an Oscar, you have to give a good performance or make a good film, but that's only a small fraction of what's needed. So much of an Oscar win is based on lobbying. The cost of winning a Best Picture Oscar is close to $10 million. PR consultants for movie studios are paid up to $20,000 for each nomination, and an additional $20,000 if they win. In 2013, Harvey Weinstein hired Stephanie Cutter, President Obama's former deputy campaign manager, to promote Silver Linings Playbook. These highly paid
This is before Me Too.
lobbyists are notorious for aggressively hyping the films they're paid to endorse and smearing rival films to the press. The fierce film smearing dates back to 1941, when William Randolph Hearst went on a rampage against Orson Welles in his film Citizen Kane, which is hailed by many as the greatest film of all time. Hearst got the president of MGM to offer a large film distributor over $800,000 to destroy the film. This led to Citizen Kane losing the Oscar to the film How Green Was My Valley. Movie studios also strategically release films in order to sway voters. Since all the Oscar voters are old, I guess dementia starts to set in and they can't remember anything that they saw longer than 4 weeks ago. The lobbying has made the Oscars so predictable, it's possible to predict the Oscar winners for Best Picture, Actor, and Actress with a success rate of 77% and a 93% success rate for Best Director. Just pick the white guy. Speaking of white guys, the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite campaign reminded us of the Academy's 80-year problem with diversity. A study in 2012 found that Academy members are mostly male, almost entirely white, with a median age of 62. If the Academy were a state, it would apparently have diversity that ranks just ahead of Utah in whiteness. Several members even have admitted they are not capable of filling out their own ballot, so they had their spouses do it for them. This isn't the first time that there's been a protest regarding the whiteness of the Oscars. 20 years ago, Jesse Jackson formed a similar protest that, at the time, was met with mostly apathy and, in some cases, ridicule. Whoopi Goldberg, who was the host in 1996, directly referred to Jackson's protest in her opening monologue.
Jesse Jackson asked me to wear a ribbon. I got it, but I had something I wanted to say to Jesse.
Put your hands down. What's with the hands? I hate it when people, like Aaron and all, would always like just mess around with his hands when I'm talking, because apparently I do that sometimes, which yeah, I kind of do. But I mean, look at people like Whoopi Goldberg. They never get made fun of.
Right here, but he's not watching, so why bother?
It's worth noting this year's almost aggressive lack of diversity. The writers of Straight Outta Compton are nominated this year, both who are white. One of the best reviewed movies of the year, Creed, got an Oscar nomination for one of the only white guys in the movie, Sylvester Stallone. The only prominent non-white performer who got nominated was The Weeknd, who was nominated for a song in 50 Shades of Grey. And it's not that these people don't deserve to be nominated. It just seems intentional when movies that feature very talented non-white performers, writers, and directors are ignored, and the few white contributors to these predominantly diverse films are favored. So in order to do what I can to help right this wrong, I will award the Academy with a sin for these notable Oscar-worthy performances that were overlooked. Will Smith for Concussion, Idris Elba for Beasts of No Nation, Michael B. Jordan for Creed, Jason Mitchell for Straight Outta Compton, and Benicio del Toro for Sicario.
This is sort of a... Hey, when was the WWE video? '18th of March 2016. Everything wrong with Branson's. 1st of April 2017.
Oh, hey there. Bet you thought I killed the channel off, right? And not gonna see me anymore? Well, I'm back. Anyways, let's get to it. I haven't posted a video on this channel in 9 months. And no, it's not because I got pregnant and had to have a baby in secret to save my family from shame, but I like how your mind works. I'm switching up the format of these episodes for the 3rd time in a row, even though there was nothing wrong with the last format. It's because we lost our filming space when we moved, so we have to improvise, but don't tell anyone I told you that. I'm only making this first video because Everything Wrong with CinemaSins is that channel's 2nd most popular video, and after being gone for 3/4 of a year, I really need that YouTube money. Also, there is no way we can sin every single shitty thing we have said and done on this channel, but I'm still gonna call this video Everything Wrong With because, again, that YouTube money. Oh shit, we haven't been tallying the sins. Like I said, it's been a while. I like my face so much that I broke the long-running tradition of keeping faces out of Sins videos. In the early days, I was like Ryan Seacrest, if Ryan Seacrest had only worn 4 shirts and 3 hats in nearly 70 episodes of American Idol. I looked like Johnny Bravo's lesbian cousin. I currently look like that guy from The Purge's lesbian cousin. I'm not currently a lesbian or the cousin of a lesbian, so my entire existence is...
That means you look like Eric Trump.
Purely sexual orientation appropriation. There's gotta be more to sin here. We have like 70 videos on this channel. Well, obviously, to start, we have the WWE video. I mean, I should probably get a sin for fucking up the unbelievable amount of times I fucked up on the fact checking. Also, EWW, WWE is a palindrome, and I fucking hate that word because the word itself isn't a palindrome. Can I give the word palindrome a sin? Sure, it's a brand new show. We're making up rules as we go. One sin for palindrome not being a palindrome. Several of the uploads to this channel have been pitiful. Everything Wrong with Starbucks is only 15 sins in the entire episode, and the episode is only 2 minutes long. I could probably find 15 sins for Jesus if I tried. I'll be workshopping those episodes in the future, so you won't have any of the half-assed stuff we were giving you before. The good news is, most of these brands have made a plethora of new mistakes since I sinned them last. Or, at least that's what I'm telling myself. Just to confuse you, I once, oh, who am I kidding, on multiple occasions, wore a New York Yankees flat bill with a Zoo York shirt. That's like mixing plaid and polka dots. I get that now. In Everything Wrong with General Mills, I used the same shot of someone opening a microwave 3 times in a row for the intro. It wasn't even my microwave. Or my hand. Yeah, I'm that lazy. In the same episode, I subjected you all to elevator music and offended the entire city of Lodi because someone delivered wheat flour to their Lodi, California facility. I'm sorry, Lodi. I also apparently enjoyed being a floating head for quite a few episodes. This was during my Casper the Friendly Ghost stage. You know what? I have some other sins that have been, weighing heavy on my heart that I should really apologize for. I prepared something. To Lego, you gave me my start on YouTube, and I repaid you with a good old sinning. I spent more time on you than my own mother. You were second to none. I sin myself for sinning you. Koi fish, and Everything Wrong with Kanye, I was so rude to you. Yeezus purchased an 18th century aquarium filled with koi fish. You know, as you do. I was a speciesist, and a real bigot. I sin myself for sinning you. Marilyn Manson, in Everything Wrong with, well, you, I send a completely subjective statement about how art should be interpreted and blamed you for many terrible things.
People ask you what your painting means, what your essay means. That is your answer.
Then you tweeted out the video. Also, I said a pun that was so... just watch it. This is the new shit toilet paper. I send myself for sending you. I send you for simply loving his woman. He even spent $75,000 on the grave plot next to hers. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment.
This is before Hugh Hefner died.
I send myself for sending you. Now that the apologies are out of the way, you'll notice that there are no subtitles on this video. You know what else I don't have now? The send timer. Why, you may ask? Because it's annoying to have to add it onto every single video. Remember the microwave thing? Yeah, still lazy.
I'm not a big fan of the new brand sense, by the way.
Remember that time when we made Everything Wrong with Pepsi in October of 2015? Right. Well, as we all know, since then Pepsi has become the face of peace, thanks to Kendall Jenner, and I think we could all use a little update on the brand. I mean, if I like world peace and world peace likes Pepsi, then I should probably like Pepsi, right? The only problem is, Pepsi's got a lot of stuff to sin. Let's get going. You know how capital letters are often used to represent loudness or anger or importance? Something like,
Bobby Douglas Burns, if you don't get down here this instant, I will beat your fucking ass so hard, there will be nothing left of your body for forensic detectives to identify it with.
You know, that kind of stuff. Well, Pepsi started out as Pepsi, and now they're Pepsi. I'm gonna let you interpret that however you'd like. Pussies. Also, because creativity and sound thinking are clearly what drives every decision Pepsi makes, the drink was originally called Brad's Drink. I know I talked about this last time, but what I failed to bring up is that Brad is not the founder's first name. It's a part of his last name. That would be like if I called my Bobby Burns YouTube channel Burr's Channel. How catchy. Also, I feel like every Pepsi commercial would be 100% better if it was for Brad's Drink. Pepsi's conformity to the social norm began in 1931, when they too entered bankruptcy thanks to the failing economy and inaccurate speculation of sugar prices. I just realized that that is the second Great Depression joke we've had in like the past I guess we just really hate people in the 30s. Something I didn't notice last time was that the original Pepsi Cola logo, you know, the one that was picked the same way you were in gym class, looks a shit ton like a blood spattering from a nasty murder in Sweeney Todd. They had a jingle in the mid-1930s that was designed to never end. You heard me right. Pepsi invented Vine. In the late 1940s, Pepsi CEO Walter Mack led an advertising campaign that focused on African Americans, an untapped market at this point because, well, racism. Concerned that people might think he was ignoring the white market, he said this at a shareholder meeting.
We don't want it to become known as the drink.
Oh my god, that tastes horrible. That's like legitimately bad. Ugh. Fuck. Taste this. Taste this. Taste it. It's just like goo. I thought it was... Pepsi sponsors cricket teams. That should definitely count as a sin, right? During New York Fashion Week in 2011, Pepsi debuted a tall, skinny can for their diet soda that they said was made in celebration of beautiful, confident women. Hey Pepsi, are only skinny women confident? Can fat women not be tall? Where the fuck is my tall, fat can, Pepsi? But seriously, just think about the impossible body standards this can sets for women. There was also that time where Pepsi took a deep-ass cut when redesigning their logo for the 14th time in 2007. See, someone, let's call him Chuck because Chuck is a nerd name and we all know it, decided it would be super cool to include the numbers 73774 and each of its 30 new background designs. Real quick, I'm gonna throw us in for having 30 background designs. So why 73774, you may ask? Well, because it's the numeric translation of the word Pepsi. As in, like, when you type it on an old cell phone. Remember those? Texting? This probably seemed like a great idea at the time, except for that was the year that the iPhone was released. Pepsi and Major League Soccer had a massive breakup in 2015 when the MLS left Pepsi for, you guessed it, Coca-Cola. It's now been 2 years, but Pepsi still gets nervous around British teens with calf socks and United jerseys. I feel like today I should also comment on what Pepsi did in Argentina. They changed their name to Pepsi. See, 25% of the population there was mispronouncing their name that way, and apparently it is easier phonetically for Spanish speakers to say Pepsi rather than Pepsi. But still, 75% of Argentinians were saying it the correct way. Can someone please explain to me how that warranted changing their name for the small minority? Using this logic, I should change my legal name to Lil Dillhole, because 1.25 of my 5 friends call me that. As of writing this script, Pepsi is on the 18th iteration of their...
Well, I mean, everyone's bending the minorities now. No, I'm kidding.
Logo. However, this is not counting the many times they've changed up their Argentinian Pepsi. Does that seem excessive to anyone? Anyone? Bueller. And because switching up just their logo didn't create enough confusion in the minds of consumers, the Pepsi company has also used 47 slogans in the US alone since the 1950s. Some of my favorites? The sociables prefer Pepsi. Have a Pepsi day. Nothing else is Pepsi. That's not even a positive statement. Nothing else is gonorrhea. Nothing else is HIV. Nothing else is cancer. You see what I mean? Drink Pepsi, get stuffed. Sounds a bit like a politician. Now, let's not forget about the rest of the world. I mean, other than Argentina, because they don't have Pepsi. The company has used 26 international slogans since 1990. Slogans like, Pepsi, there's nothing official about it. That one was from India. It can be good. It can be very good. It can be Pepsi. That one's from Brazil and Portugal. And for Pakistan, meal turns exciting. Because Pakistanis aren't allowed to enjoy food without a Pepsi. I don't make the rules. Speaking of international, in November of 2013, Pepsi apologized on their official Swedish Facebook page for an ad campaign featuring Cristiano Ronaldo as a voodoo doll being punished in creative ways before the Sweden v Portugal 2014 FIFA World Cup playoff game. What? Pepsi and Coke...
I don't understand, like... They don't even hate Ronaldo, from what I can tell. Like, you know, they're supposed to be friends with Ronaldo, and they thought, oh yeah, let's let's show our friendship with Ronaldo by killing him.
Have been so competitive that they have an official Wikipedia page dedicated to documenting their so-called Cola Wars. As everyone knows, in the 1970s, Pepsi started a challenge called the Pepsi Challenge. They conducted blind taste tests in which participants had to say which cola they preferred, Pepsi or Coke. And guess what? Pepsi won. People genuinely liked the taste of Pepsi more. So, you're probably asking yourself, Bobby, why are you sending them for winning a taste test? Well, the reason is, despite the fact that people prefer the taste of Pepsi to Coke, Coke is still a much more popular company. It's such a slap in the face. And I like face slapping. So, I'm joining in. See, Forbes has Pepsi ranked at number 29 with a brand value of $19.4 billion. Pretty good, right? Well, Forbes also has Coke ranked at number 4 with a brand value of $58.5 billion. Even with what the majority of people call a superior product, they can't break through the glass ceiling. Or is it the Pepsi clear ceiling? Sounds like they're all speaking to me. Oh my god. Horrifying. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the reason we are all currently thinking about Pepsi. Last month was a real step forward in the pursuit of world peace, thanks to Pepsi and one outspoken activist. That's right, when casting their commercial that, I think, was an effort to show solidarity with the disenfranchised and marginalized in our society, Pepsi decided it was a great idea to feature a super elite socialite whose primary contribution to the world has been blanketing it in duckface images. I'm also going to send whoever that guy is at Pepsi who sat in a room and thought, hey, you know what's hip and rad and in right now? Protesting. We should really get in on this thing. Oh, but what if it's a fad? No, this is definitely a trend. I'll say it'll at least keep up until Trump is out of office. Let's dig into this ad. Join the O conversation? Is this Pepsi's attempt to appeal to their Irish and Scottish bases? For going off of their track record, I guess the next step would be calling the brand O Pepsi? Also, for all we know, this could be part of a covert operation by Coca-Cola, sneaking signs into Pepsi ads that say Pepsi sucks. I mean, it could also mean peace, but that's no fun. This rally looks pretty planned. People are marching, there are painted signs, so white people are even there, nobody's being beaten by police, so why the fuck did this photographer decide to photograph a blonde Kindle in that particular doorway? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, he probably thought, based off every Jenner and Kardashian experience in the history of ETV, that Kindle wouldn't give a fuck about peace protesters.
With blonde hair, Kendall Jenner really looks like Anya Taylor-Joy.
Look, we're kindred spirits. I also keep my expensive camera by the front door without a lens cap on. Why did Cello Man bring his cello? Of instruments to carry around, it seems to be up there with keyboard and didgeridoo on the conspicuity spectrum. I wonder what kind of amp he's gonna... Oh. Hey, look at you! Sin removed for the only guy to actually plug an electric guitar into an amp in a video. No actual human being walks like that. What if Pepsi's actually going for world's peace and Kindle is actually an alien life form? Pepsi truly is bringing all kinds together. Why is it a victory just because a cop took a sip of Pepsi? That doesn't make any fucking sense. In fact, I'd argue he'd have maced Kindle promptly for it not being Coke. Also, what are these fuckers celebrating about? They couldn't have seen the cop take the can. They have their own line of cops in front of them. What sheeple? And finally, Pepsi is not the solution to all of the world's problems. Coke is. And no, I'm not talking about the kind that comes in a can. Before we leave, let's do one thing real quick. Welcome to my shower. I'm having a severe drain issue. It's all clogged up. I need something to help unclog it. Perfect. Time to clean it out. We fixed the drain. We did it, guys. I don't think it'll be clogged anymore.
Yeah, that Pepsi ad didn't prevent George Floyd's death. Oh.
Ah, the fidget spinner, the classic 2017 whirring toy designed to help the easily distractible become slightly less distractible. Some claim it's just a toy, others profess it to be the most helpful gadget they've ever found for living with ADHD or autism. So, which is it? Well, let's find out. I haven't slept in days. I've just been spinning my life away. The origin of the fidget spinner is kind of cloudy and up for interpretation. Kind of like the results of the fidget spinner. A woman named Catherine Hettinger patented what she called a spinning toy in '93, claiming it helped her autistic students function better in school environments. However, since the fidget spinner's popularity has skyrocketed this year, she has actively not claimed to be the creator. How bad does an invention have to have inventors clamoring to not take the credit? There are a lot of manufacturers out there making pretty much the same exact product. While that isn't necessarily a sin on its own, the fact that these extremely similar items range in price from $3 to $2,088 kinda requires a ding, you know? Also, despite being incredibly self-explanatory, there are over 3.8 million results when you search how to use a fidget spinner on the YouTubes. Hey everybody, welcome today to the fidget spin tutorial. So, step 1, you take your fidget spinner. Step 2, you fidget spin it. You got it. Supposed to cut. The top result has over 3.9 million views. Again, people, you just spin it. One fidget spinner reviewer found that the Rotoblade model in titanium started to get gritty and make funky noises after a few hours of use. Now, I expect things like this from a few products, like yo-yos or prostitutes, but fidget spinners, whose only job is to spin? I think not. Now, these are toys, so some wear is to be expected.
See, right, every year there is this sort of fair in Portaferry. And ever since 2018, or maybe 2017, they have a stand with fidget spinners. It's 2021. There were still fidget spinners. Like, how come these people don't realize that they're dying out?
But here's the thing. The Rotoblades cost anywhere from $117 to $135. Bobby, Rotoblade also advertises to be a bottle opener and a phone stand. That's a good deal. Yeah, I love placing fragile, scratchable glass screens on roughly edged metal that I'm supposed to be using to help me do other things than look at my phone. Also, the Rotoblade functions as a cigar stand, showing that they think their target audience is James Bond villains, when in reality, it's just human versions of the autistic screeching meme. Now, don't worry, I'm not just going to focus on the Rotoblade. There are plenty of other spinners out there to meet. For instance, the fingertip gyro hand spinner fidget, which was advertised as a bottle opener and in the same sentence promoted as a great toy for kids. Son, bring me a fucking beer.
Oh, but Dad, I don't have any way of opening a beer because I'm just a kid, so I don't have access to tools like that. Because my innocence needs to be protected, but also because the sharp edges on a bottle opener could be dangerous to a kid that is my age.
Oh wait, I got you one of those spinny toys. It's in the box by the door. You can use that to open a beer for me, but never open a beer for yourself because beer's bad for kids, and you should only use the spinner for spinning and nothing else as it was advertised for on Amazon. Spin. Oh, how we spin. Now, let's not forget about the Balai fidget spinner toy, which glows in the dark. You know, for those times that a kid with serious attention issues is trying to sleep and needs to spin something and look at it in order to not be distracted from sleep. Makes sense. The Vulcan Titanium Antisocial Hand Spinner Fidget Toy, nice name by the way, comes in 3 versions. Pink for $6, Army Green for $78, and Titanium for $140. So much for the pink tax. Take that, Amy Schumer. A 3D printing site made a post on May 16th, 2017 called 48 Best Fidget Spinner / Hand Spinner Toys to Buy or DIY. Regardless of the content, there should not be a Best 48 of anything.
Hey, Bob.
But there's really only ever one best of something. I mean, I guess you could stretch it to 10 if you have very different reviews. But 48. And you know what? We're gonna add 48 cents for the 48 best fidget spinners out there. There is this review, which outs the X-Design spinner as a rating scam. Also, the box came with a card trying to bribe me to give a 5-star review, so I may take a lot of these with a grain of salt. You mean company, don't do that. That's mean. Bad company. I wrote the script for this video at May 18th, 3:29 p.m. That day, there were 9 new reviews on the Gong Fu fidget spinner, which is the first thing to come up when you search fidget spinner on Amazon. 6 of them were only 1 star. How badly do you have to mess up on the manufacturing of a piece of plastic to get that many 1-star reviews? And it's not like this was an anomaly, just a one-day thing. Over a third of the reviews on this spinner are 1 star. Even the best-selling...
That's because we shouldn't be using stars on Amazon, because, like, YouTube videos just use stars, but then they realize that everyone, most people are either giving it 5 stars or 1 star. So they decided to make liking, disliking, other stuff should start to adopt that.
Spinner on Amazon, on sale for $4, has 1-star ratings racking up 21% of their overall reviews. Do you know how bad a $4 item has to be to get a 1-star review? $3 bad. Then we have this guy who decided that simply spinning with a spinner wasn't enough for him. I took my grinder and shaved parts off of it to create a very sharp spinning blade of
Death. It's great for parties and just chilling with death on the go. And it's really fun to gamble with it, too.
I bought this for this episode to make fun of it. Now I've been non-stop using it for about 4 days. I don't know how to feel about that, and I don't know how to communicate my emotions effectively, so I'm going to lash out in anger and give you another sin. These things are not all fun and games. In May of 2017, a girl swallowed part of her fidget spinner and had to be rushed into emergency surgery to remove it from her esophagus. The girl was apparently cleaning part of it when it went down her throat. Sin for not providing better cleaning instructions than suck on it. Also, the girl was 10, which is way too old to swallow a piece of a toy and spinner. Although you aren't responsible for how old the girl was, I'm still gonna blame you for it. Because as a liberal, I refuse to take personal responsibility for my toy-consuming actions. Where the medical field is concerned, there is no evidence to support the idea that fidget spinners help to quell the distractible nature of ADHD and autistic students. And yet, they continue to be furiously marketed to those people. Except for Rotoblade, who pretty much exclusively markets to people who own rental properties. In an NPR article by Wayne Davis on May 14th, 2017, the idea was put forth that the spinners are just marketed towards nervous parents who want to help their kids. So the advertisers are just taking advantage of very vulnerable people. One clinical psychologist even said that relying on the stories of some kids with ADHD being helped by the spinners is almost like saying Yelp reviewers are scientific. And we all know that, wow, great experience, 10 out of 10 would come again, isn't necessarily the most accurate description of Pepe's Mexican Grill. Also, fidget spinners have completely taken over YouTube. It doesn't matter what your video is about, as long as there is a fidget spinner in the thumbnail, you'll get some fucking views. The worst perpetrator of all is TechSmart.
Alright, so they're probably calling the police. We're just gonna head out on this one. Spin on, Jeff. Spin on, my friend.
The fact that, well, there aren't any facts proving the benefits of fidget spinners for students has caused a ton of commotion in schools worldwide. You could even say that the things are spinning out of control. An article from Trib Live, a Pennsylvania publication, reports that Western Pennsylvania schools have banned them. While some kids claim the spinners help them concentrate, the kids around them who normally had no problem paying attention were getting distracted by the toys. Back in my day, it was just the hot English teacher that distracted us. And boy, did we fidget with our own damn spinners. Just after school. And finally, The Telegraph in the UK reported similar problems of the spinners distracting students. Finally. It's not just Americans who are fucking up. Thanks, fidget spinners.
So, after doing countless hours of research on the European Union, I've become ill. I'm sick. The sheer amount of facts on Wikipedia alone was enough to send me into a spiral of ickiness. So today I'm in my big boy bed, with my big boy shirt, shooting everything wrong with the European Union, Sick Boy Edition. know how families fight sometimes, but after they make up, there's usually a family meeting to discuss how everyone feels and to lay out some new rules to keep everyone happy with one another. Now, just replace the family members with European countries, and the fight with a little ditty called World War II, and welcome to the European Union. A family meeting on steroids. The European Union is a
Sorry about that, I was getting lunch.
collection of European countries who have come together in the years since World War II to establish a more sustainably stable Europe. Their cause is actually fairly agreeable, but nothing is without a sin. Their anthem is Ode to Joy. Is this cheating? Yes it is. Why? Well, because every little kid learns Ode to Joy on the piano or the recorder, and they don't even know they're signing away their allegiance to the European Union. Of all the area the EU covers, over 3% is water, which I don't think is very fair because most of those fish don't get representation. Not even the whales. It's such a dumb joke, and I really like it. In 1965, creativity seemed to be lacking in Europe when the agreement to create the European Communities was dubbed the Merger Treaty. Wow. Mind blown. They don't specifically say it, but I feel like this decision was made by a guy named Reginald, or Louis, who pronounces his name Louis. The currency that the EU introduced legit looks like monopoly money. Kids must get so confused trying to buy ice cream with their profits from Boardwalk. This currency is called the euro, which is kind of like if the US called the dollar the North A. Yeah, actually, it's exactly like that. Also, Greece joined the EU in 1981, and they have these things called euros, which are pronounced exactly like euro. So, how many euros does it cost to buy a euro? Even though 19 countries use the euro, it's still not traded as much as the American dollar. America? Fuck yeah! There's a new way of doing that. While I was doing research for this episode, I came across the most inefficient and unappealing chart to ever be used in an official capacity ever. And I kind of feel like a sin has to go to the EU for being the reason it exists. What the actual fuck is this? What the fuck? The European Union includes the Benelux Union, which is a political-economic union of Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. There's nothing inherently wrong with this until you realize the name was probably created by a 5-year-old. Lix. It turns out that the EU functions a bit like a college frat when it comes to membership. You have to fit certain criteria, and you're publicly named on either an applicants list or a potential applicants list. What do they do for hazing? A 24-hour currency overhaul? At least no one would probably die in that kind of hazing, because that guy died recently from a hazing thing, so I can tie it in. Right here. I don't feel good. So, you know, the U.S. has 3 government branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Well, guess how many the EU has? 7. And you know what? I'm gonna give them 7 sins for all the 7-year-olds who have to remember 7 branches of government on the EU unit exam. And now that I've made fun of them...
No.
Let's go through every one of them. Institution number 1. The European Council. They don't even make laws. Their only purpose is to provide impetus and direction. So they basically have the same amount of impact as a televangelist with an 11 a.m. CST slot. Institution number 2. The Council of the European Union, which is different than the European Council because they can actually legislate. But they're based in Brussels, so they lose all credibility. Institution number 3. The European Parliament. They either base their logo on the architecture of their headquarters, or vice versa. But either way, it's pretty weird. Institution number 4. The European Commission! They're the ones who actually implement policies and administer budgets. And you know what? Budgets suck. Just run up your debt with China like the United States. You fucking squares. The 5th institution. The Court of Justice of the European Union. Has a long fucking name. Institution number 6. The European Central Bank is responsible for protecting the value of the euro. They're responsible for enacting quantitative easing in the Eurozone as well as curtailing inflation. No, man. And lastly, the seventh institution is the European Court of Auditors.
We make recommendations about how the systems can be improved.
I'm gonna give them a sin because I just don't give a fuck anymore. You did it, EU. You wore me down. We'll never know what you do in the shadows. Now that we have a basic understanding of the EU's general structure, on to policies. The firm stance of the European Union against the death penalty makes it a lovely place to commit a double homicide. Now, if someone tries to kill you while you are visiting a fellow member state and fails, don't you worry. You'll have your free European health insurance card, which allows you to get help outside of your home country. This is actually an amazing thing they do. So, I'm gonna give a sin to the EU for making us look bad. Fuck off, EU. We don't want your good example. Now, where does the money for this whole healthcare scheme come from, you ask? Well, every citizen of the EU pays taxes, and some of those taxes end up supporting other member states. Kinda like how your dad let your Uncle Joey sleep on the couch when he got kicked out. It sucks to be dad. Now, let's say that while Uncle Joey is asleep on the couch, your Uncle Jose needs to sleep in the armchair in the living room, and your Aunt Franny is staying in the guest bed. Oh yeah, and I guess Cousin Doyle also needs a place to sleep, so he's taking your bed. On top of all of this, Grandpa Aristotle needs a place to crash. I guess he's taking the dining room table. How long do you think it's going to be until your dad decides to kick everyone out? Welcome, once again, to the European Union. Uncle Joey, aka Italy, has been struggling with non-performing loans, or, in other words, loans that people just don't pay back. Now, normally that would be a problem for Italy, but because Italy is one of the 19 member states using the euro, the burden falls on everyone else's shoulders as well. Uncle Jose is Spain, and Spain is constantly underperforming in the market. Aunt Franny is, well, France, and although she is normally fairly efficient, she's barely been breaking even for the past few years. Cousin Doyle obviously represents Ireland, and they're not exactly known for being a powerhouse in the money department, are they? Aristotle, who was pretty fucking obviously Greece, learned some basic 6th grade philosophy, has been an absolute shit show since 2010. In case, after all that, you're still lost, your father is the United Kingdom. He kicked everyone out in June of 2016 and is focusing on himself right now. Your mom said he just needs a little bit.
No. We voted to leave. And then we were going to leave 2 years ago. And I actually posted a screenshot of the timer hitting 0. But it just never happened. As for if we actually left or not, I don't actually know.
Of me time. Although the EU, for the time being, has a free movement of persons, meaning that people can travel from Belgium to France without incident for work, or to study, or even to retire. Hey EU, you get a sin for making everyone else look like psychotic xenophobes when it comes to immigration policies. While people are allowed to go from member state to member state freely, the EU has still not presented any competent plan for dealing with the current refugee crisis. Although no plan at all isn't necessarily as bad as some plans. Despite having such a free flow between member states, the EU in 2014 had to import more than half of its energy sources, and most of those were from Russia. Can an institution really claim any set of ideals when its purse strings are held by an outside party? Or when the mechanisms that allow for communication and travel and innovation are powered by non-member states? Hey you, that's a little bit suspect. And finally, even though German is the most common native tongue, 51% of people in the EU speak conversational English. I don't know, to me that seems a bit excessive. Not everyone should have to learn their theirs there.
I think I stopped watching somewhere around this point.
You want to make a horror movie? Well, you came to the right place. Why try to be original when you can follow the same cookie-cutter recipe people have been following for decades? Are you ready? Here we go. First off, you need these characters. A white virgin who has great grades and a perfect life. A black friend who listens to gangster rap exclusively and just loves to say, oh, hell no! A blonde friend who can only really be described as a super slut. And a preppy boyfriend who acts all macho but is really a pussy at heart. Next, you need a villain. But we're gonna go with a masked lunatic. It doesn't really matter what mask he wears as long as it is easy to reproduce as a silicone children's Halloween costume. He can use a variety of weapons such as knives, a chainsaw, claws, but make sure he never uses a
Ash Williams isn't a bad guy.
practical weapons such as a gun. If he does, your movie will be over in about 10 minutes. You are allowed to place your character in one of two locations. A nasty old cabin in the woods, or a rickety old house. That's it. No exceptions. Once your film really gets going and the killer is slicing and dicing, there are several things that need to happen. Number one, your characters need to split up.
We should split up. I'm gonna see if the door's over this way. I want. Sit down there.
We're gonna have to split up to search this place.
We should split up.
I know it doesn't make any sense, just trust me. Number two, would your movie be scary if the black guy called the cops? No. Once the killing starts, make sure your character's cell phone has horrible connection.
The point of having a portable phone, idiot, is that it works.
No one can get a signal up here.
Found a signal?
No, nothing. We're out of range. I'm not getting anything.
No bars. I hate the cell.
Number three, you want to know what makes horror movies really scary? Of course you do. Jump scares. I don't care where the characters are, make jump out at them. And by them, of course, I mean the audience. An even better way to scare your audience is to make them think there's about to be a jump scare and then fake them out. Then immediately throw a creepy face right at them. Gets them every time. Number four, make sure your characters lose control of their basic motor skills and can't perform simple tasks such as opening doors and running without tripping over their own feet. Number five, the order of death. Obviously, the black guy dies first, followed by the super slut and then the boyfriend. What about the virgin, you may be thinking? Never kill her. I mean it. Even if your villain has a butcher knife right up to her throat in the middle of a forest, find a way for her to make it out alive. And finally, number six. At the end of your film, you can make the villain get killed, right? Wrong. Even if he gets cut up into tiny little pieces with a chainsaw, his living eye has to snap open in the last shot of the film. If not, how do you make a sequel? A prequel? A trilogy? If you want to keep the money flowing in, you gotta keep your...
I don't understand. Right. Say you do make a horror film, and the villain dies, right? Obviously, you can't make a sequel. But you can't make a prequel because they're still alive, because it's a prequel, it takes place before the original.
Killer alive. And that's it. Follow these simple instructions and you could have your own cookie-cutter horror movie in no time. Or... So, you want to make your British crime film? Well, you came to the right place. The easiest and most efficient way to go about doing this is to be a British person. But, since most of you won't be able to accomplish that, here are some other ways to pull
There are Americans in British crime films. Matthew McConaughey did The Gentleman.
it off. First off, you need a catchy title. Not that many people watch these films, so it's very important to make the title as unique as possible.
All the way he says that, but yet is really popular. I mean, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Tom Cruise loves that film. It was massive in the UK, and then like people in America got Tom Cruise to see it, and it was like, and they asked him, "Should we bring it here?" And he said, "You'd be an idiot not to."
That said, here are the only three options you have for creating the name of your film. Number one, title the film the location you are shooting. If you're shooting your film in Bruges, call your film in Bruges. If your characters are running from London to Brighton, call it London to Brighton. Actually, you don't even have to add in words such as in and to if you don't want to. Open up Google Maps and the name of where you are at that moment should pop up. Copy and paste that onto a poster and you have yourself a title. I'm pretty sure that's what they did for Down Terrace and Brighton Rock. Number two, title your film the lead character's name. Why bother taking the time to figure out where you are when your leading man's name is badass? Who wouldn't want to go see a movie called Harry Brown, or Bronson, or The Craze? Number three, if neither one of the preceding options sounds alluring, you can always randomly select one obscure word to be the title of your masterpiece. Google search random word generator and you'll come up with titles like Revolver, Piggy, Scum, Snatch, and Blitz. Now when it comes to casting, you have many choices. Jason Statham, Michael Caine, Colin Farrell, or Vinnie Jones, to name a few. But really, you should go with Jason Statham. I mean, come on, he's Jason Statham. When writing your characters, you need to make sure they all have interesting nicknames, such as
Clark, Soap, Brit, Crazy Larry,
Bacon,
Burst the Blade, the Duke, Nick the Greek, Morty, Turkish.
Also, there should probably be a guy named Harry.
Harry. Say it again, Harry. I need your help, Harry. Harry? Thanks, Harry. Harry.
Lastly, they all need to wear suits. Lots and lots of suits.
Well, you better get...
Planning. Thank you, Counselor.
Right.
Now, the plot of your film should be very complicated. I don't mean like, oh wow, that was interesting complicated. I mean like mentioning 15 different characters' names at the beginning and expecting people to remember every single one of the names for the entirety of the film complicated. How do you introduce your seedy characters in the world they're in? Voiceover, of course. What other option is there?
Washed the residue off my hands in the bathroom of a Burger King and walked home to await instructions.
Bacon could see that his days of selling moody goods on street corners are numbered. I'm a businessman whose commodity happens to be cocaine.
One thing I could never stand was to see a filthy, dirty old drunkie.
It's rumoured that Brittop's favourite means of dispatch holds a stun gun. Oh, yeah. Bloody hell.
People have come to expect the dialogue in British crime films to be witty and entertaining. If you can't write witty or entertaining dialogue, have an actor with an unintelligibly thick accent deliver the lines.
He then orders an Aristotle of the most ping-pong tiddly in the nuclear sub.
Like Dags. Dags. Huh?
Yeah, Dags.
Dags. Like Dags.
You know what looks great on camera? A British person's head exploding. Whether the head is being shot or smashed with a blunt object is really up to you.
Shot himself.
Once you finish the film, you need a poster. Although it is not required, it will significantly help to sell your film if you have a gun on the poster. And finally, if everything fails, you can't cast Jason Statham, you can't afford voiceover time in a studio, you can't write witty dialogue, you can't have someone pose with a gun for your poster, and you can't even make someone's head explode. Don't worry, there's still hope. The single most important thing you need to remember when making a British crime film is that you need to include a shit ton of F-bombs.
Oh, get the f***ing guns! I'm not gonna get the f***ing guns! You get the f***ing guns! Hey, you f***ing
You should make it your personal mission to include as many versions of the word in your film as possible.
It's an inanimate f***ing object.
You're an inanimate f***ing object!
I'm talking up in the hundreds, possibly the thousands if you could manage it.
I'll tell you what f***ing happened. You tell me, gal. You tell me what f***ing happened. Give me a f***ing knock like you fat f***ing c***. What do you f***ing say, c***? What? No f***ing problem with the plane. F***ing plane was fine. F***ing plane was alright. F***ing plane was perfect. It's you. You're the problem. You're the f***ing problem. Not this f***ing time. No! Not this f***ing time. No f***ing way. No f***ing way. No f***ing way. No f***ing way. You made me look alright.
And that's f***ing it. Follow these f***ing simple instructions and you'll f***ing be on your f***ing way to making your own f***ing British crime film.
By the way, I'm not a fan of horror films. I'm also not a fan of British crime films. I've seen Rock and Rolla and Snatch, probably some others, and I didn't like them. I was interested in The Gentleman and Wrath of Man, but decided, like, watching this video, I'm not gonna watch those two. Because I'm thinking about how I regret watching The Office because I knew I didn't like it, but I just continued on with it, and I just kept going, oh yeah, I do like it. You know?